Hello, Jill here from TSC Talks. TSC Talks, where I share and reflect my lived experience within the dense matrix and systemic programming, awakening through the role of parent caregiver of loved ones affected by TSC, tuberous sclerosis complex, observing and integrating traumas and the limiting beliefs they spawn that keep us from knowing our own truth of who we are as divine beings. Coming up on the podcast is Leigh Anne Bianchi. She is the founder of Good Citizenship Project, a wonderful program that she created and developed herself as an individual with a diagnosis of autism, having tons of lived experience and the work and professional experience to find this really unconventional, exceptional, underdog, lovely program that you're going to hear about, and that has really helped my son personally and many other local individuals who have some level of autism or special needs. So look forward to Leigh Anne, and thanks for tuning in so much. Jill here from TSC Talks. Thank you for tuning in. I am here with my guests, Leigh Anne Bianchi and Carla Bell, who's along for the ride. Leigh Anne is the founder and the creator of Good Citizenship Project, which I've shared a lot of pictures on Facebook if you follow me there. My son has participated in this program over the last 7 or 8 months. I found Leigh Anne through a Facebook post, and I saw what she was doing. She was posting pictures of people with special needs working on farms and doing like volunteer work. And I was like, what is that? And I immediately contacted her. She called me back in minutes and we had a great chat. Turns out we had rented from the same landlord, and
that creepy haunted house.
Anyways, yeah. So yeah, and she just jumped right in with my son, and I cannot thank her enough for just reminding me of how capable he is. And that, I think that's what, in my experience, Leigh Anne is drawing out of the clients that she works with, is really their capabilities beyond all the diagnosis, all the crap that we deal with when you're managing a chronic illness. So yeah, it's just she's just been a beacon. And I can't speak highly enough about her program. So I'm probably embarrassing you, but anyways, why don't you?
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure here. Yes, this beacon's going to talk, and I shut up in a minute here. So I know that you have some background. I detective worked you a little, that you worked at Seven Hills, and now you are, this business is, you are a respite and life skills support coach. And Good Citizenship Project is facilitates developing a sense of meaning and purpose, social, emotional skills, work ethic, peer relationships by volunteering, distributing donations, and supporting local farms. So that was what I found on your Facebook profile. So yeah, thanks, Leigh Anne, for coming on the podcast.
Sure.
Yeah.
Glad I could do it.
Yeah. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how your life and how you ended up doing this, what you're doing?
Okay. Well, I think you sent the email with the questions, and it started off with asking me about my formative years.
Oh, good.
So what?
Talking and go with the flow, but
I work much better with
structure.
Like a little bit little structure.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
okay.
I need that. So it's good. Carla,
go ahead.
Both of you and Carla had to really encourage me to even do this, because I'm not good tooting my own horn, so I'll do my best. But basically, yeah, the first question you asked was about my formative years.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandpa Frank on my dad's side was ambidextrous. He was an artist. He was just a really cool guy. He designed for Ford for most of his career. So, I've got a couple of, they were his concept cars. So
how cool.
So he had a huge studio in his basement, and he used to just let me play with all of his art supplies, he had trains and whatnot. And I think that's hindsight being what it is, obviously in the late 70s, early 80s, autism wasn't even heard of. It wasn't even acknowledged. But I think if somebody were to go back in time and watch me, probably, the way I was with sorting his colored pencils and even his trains, they had to be in Roy G. Biv, from the colors, red, orange, yellow, green.
Rainbow.
It had to be in order of Roy G. Biv to the exclusion of everything else. I'd be late to sit down for dinner. I'd not clean my room, whatever, because I had to make sure those things were like that. So I think that's probably where I get the connection to people who've now got a diagnosis on the spectrum. I think I spent most of my formative years being overlooked or forgotten or falling between the cracks because I didn't fit into any of those, the criteria that were put out at, 1979 when I went to kindergarten. But I had a temper and I'd get frustrated easily and I'd fixate on stuff.
Really challenging.
My family was really great. My mom, my dad, my grandparents all just kind of knew how to fix it for me or how to adjust how they were interacting with me or whatever, so that I got it. So I never knew that I was really any different until, I consistently wound up in the principal's office. I mean, in 5th grade, they were still using a paddle.
Oh my goodness.
I remember it had holes in it. And I remember going to Mr. Flower's office and having to put my hands on the desk and hearing the whistle of the air in the holes and getting paddled.
Holy crap.
The same as getting it was the same as getting a spanking to me, because I grew up in a household that they did spankings,
Oh yeah, I got spankings.
Spanking, so, that's probably, again, one of the indicators that I was a little bit different was that I spent a lot of time in the principal's office. So did my brothers, both of my brothers, similar stuff. My one of them used to get up on all fours in his crib and rock back and forth and smash his head into the headboard.
Ooh,
Oh
I had
my
a son
goodness.
like that.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter did that, but
One of mine did that. He moved the crib all the way across the room with the head.
Okay, so I thought Andy was the only one. Love you, Andy. He's probably going to kill me if he ever sees this. But I think NIH would have a good time looking into the genetics of it, because if you look at my dad growing up, and like I said, Andy and my other brother Bradley and me, lots of similarities, incredibly empathic, incredibly sensitive to other people's feelings.
Which can be a misnomer for the autism population.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off there.
Well, one of the things that you asked in your questions is what have I learned? And that's what I've learned, that people with the diagnosis on the spectrum are probably some of the most empathetic people you will ever meet. They get it more than they say. I shouldn't say they, I should say we get it more than you give credit for. And that was one of the questions too about my connection with animals. Animals get it. They don't judge. They're safe. They will never hold a grudge against you or leave you if they don't have to. They're just, and I think Jack will tell you that, my animals, they know their job. They switch gears when they're around the people that I support, especially Johnny, my horse. And he's a godsend for sure. He made sure that I was okay. And now I get to share that with other people.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing to watch. For sure.
I can only imagine. Yeah. Just the small glimpses that I've got of what you do, and just your heart and like from what you just shared, I can see why it fits.
Most of the animals that are in my life, I didn't pick them, they picked me. When I met Johnny, I was going to a farm because the owner, I had leased a horse from him before, and then had a series of really bad falls and accidents, and I was terrified to get up on a horse again, but I needed to. It's what centers me. It's what refills my well. So I knew I had to, but I didn't know where else to go except for back to this guy. And he had sold the horse that I was leasing, but he's like, you can ride mine. He's a really old guy. He's been there. He's done that. We're going to put you up on the back of him and, and you'll be fine. So I'd go there to ride Calvin. And every time I did, Johnny would just wander over. The other horses wouldn't let him near me, but he kept trying. And I felt bad because I'm a sucker for the underdog. And I just started keeping treats in a special pocket for him so that when the other horses would go to my left-hand pocket, I'd give him treats out of my right-hand pocket. And he picked me. And both of my dogs are rescues. And I went to the shelter and, you walk by or whatever, and they, in one way or another, acknowledged me and picked me. And even the cat and my chicken, the house chicken, she was going to die, but her, I don't know, flock mates would have killed her because she was different and she was sick. And, so the barn owner was like, man, she was really, really sick. And he was like, we should just put her out of her misery. It's the humane thing to do. And it probably would have been, but again, underdog. So I was like, no, give her to me. I'll make her all better.
Oh,
so
wow.
I had this syringe full of oregano water that I was like squirting into her beak.
Wow. That's commitment there.
And
Holy
so
crap.
now she's the house chicken. And
Oh, that's
she sees me talking about her. Hey, Betty.
yeah. So I kind of hijacked your story where you were talking about just challenges in, throughout your academic, throughout school, kind of being overlooked and, not really having a diagnosis or anything. So I feel like,
I got diagnosed with ADD and dyslexia later on. By the time I graduated high school, I then, had severe depression and anxiety, which always goes with, misdiagnosis or underdiagnosis. And I struggled a lot because by the time you're 18, you have an awareness of how different you are from other people, whether it's because you have an IEP and your parents are going to IEP meetings all the time, or you're in different classes than the rest of your peers, or, like the turning 22 or the post-grad programs.
Yeah.
These kids are fully aware of the fact that everybody else that they started kindergarten with is graduating this year, but for some reason they're there for another 4 years.
right. Like, I know, let's just talk out loud about this. Yes. It's infuriating. And yes.
It's necessary. I understand why the program exists. I think it was founded with the absolute best intentions. Let's give these guys a little bit longer. They can do it. They just need a little bit longer.
Yep.
And then, and I still think that's true.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a post-grad program. I think the problem is it's not acknowledged and no one's honest. I shouldn't say no one. Oftentimes people are not honest with those students about the real reason they're staying behind, why they don't get to join their peers in college or a trade school or getting a job. And they just know that they're different. And it's kind of taboo to talk about it because you don't want to make them feel bad because you have autism. You have autism. So your brain and your mind work differently than others. So we have to find ways to accommodate that. And instead of just saying that, they're like, oh, well, you're just not as smart as other ones, or people just don't answer the question. And then that's where you get the depression and the anxiety, and people are acting out and becoming physically aggressive or self-injurious behaviors.
It's adaptive. It's an adaptive behavior.
Science to figure it out. Yeah.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
If you think, all right, so
and watching it as a parent is just, I can't tell you how infuriating it is. And to almost know that there's not that many choices, and you don't want to just cast your child out into the world. And so, but they know, like you said, they freaking know.
They know.
The only way that extra 4 years works is if there's a plan in place for those students to get new skills. And that's why your program is so beneficial. Because
Yes.
a lot of those, I've seen it happen, that those 4 years are almost wasted. No new skills are being introduced.
Right.
So
They're
Yeah.
doing
something like the
worksheets.
Good Citizenship Project.
They're doing worksheets. I want to tell this story and I'm trying to think of how I can be discreet about it, but I was hired as an ABA in a high school to work with a young lady who was proper freshman, as in it was her first year in high school. And she had a lot of problems with communication and some physical barriers as well. But I mean, that her mind was there. So bright and just funny. And, she's 14 years old. She's flirting with boys the way that she knows how to flirt. And in a lot of ways, developmentally, she was reaching all those kind of milestones, wanting to flirt, wanting to have her hair done, wanting to wear the same outfit. So that's my cat rubbing against my hand. Wanting to wear the same outfits and blend in with her peers.
Mhm.
But she didn't speak the way that her peers spoke. Her body didn't work the way her peers body worked. And so she was different and she was so aware of it. And you know what made it even better? Wink, wink, not better, that's sarcasm. Is sitting her down in a room full of people who also had special needs and making her do preschool puzzles.
Mm.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because they wanted her to work on her eye-hand coordination and her fine motor skills. So they literally had, the Melissa and Doug puzzles with the animals that fit into the pre-cut out spots.
Yeah,
And
It's tragedy.
it is. Yep.
getting furious thinking about it. And you know what she really needed to work on? Toileting.
Mm.
She could do it, but people assumed that was because she was 14 and wasn't able to toilet independently yet, that she was never going to.
Right.
So her IEP focused on being able to identify colors and numbers. And I think it was fair at that point to assume that at 14, if she didn't yet, probably not gonna. But given her diagnosis, the inability to toilet on her own was mostly because of underdeveloped musculature. And you know how you fix that? Use the muscles.
Use the muscles. Yeah.
So
Do some kegels.
So I ignored the IEP, and every 15 minutes I would set an alarm and we would go to the toilet. And if anything came out, I made a big deal out of it. Woo woo, yay, you. Then we went back to what we were supposed to be doing. And
wow. You figured that out.
yeah, it's amazing what you can figure out when you just pay attention for a little bit. And I remember arguing with the BCBA and saying, look, you're determining the course of this girl's future. She's 14. She's got 6 to 8 years before they decide whether or not she's going to go into something like a CBDS program or a day hab program. And whether or not she's able to independently use the bathroom charts that course.
Yep.
It's going to determine if she winds up in a group home and what group home she ends up in. And because you're focused on whether or not she can tell the difference between blue or green, she's not getting the help she needs in the area that is most important for her future. So I got fired.
Really?
Need more people like you.
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes.
We need more people like you.
Yes, we do.
Well, except
Absolutely.
for that school system did not agree and I got fired. So
We need a new system. Yeah.
for
Well,
sure.
wow.
the
Just
system is broken.
I love that story. And I think as a parent, it's seeing the presumption of competence and having that slowly get eroded by if you actually choose to believe, which I think happens to a lot of parents. They get caught up in the forest for the trees with all the testing and the external aspects of it, not the energetics, is what you really seem to have a gift or lived experience with work that you've put in to perceive a lot.
Having been the underdog most of my life, I get what that's like. And I understand that in the course of a school system where there's 300, 400 children or students in one class alone, when I graduated from Wachusett, I think there were 416 people in our graduating class. And I think only 380 of us actually walked across the stage for various reasons, obviously. But you turn that in, you combine all 4 years. So now you've got 1,600 students, and then you include the life skills program and those other programs. And now we're talking what, 2,000 people in one school. So I think that's
Yep.
part of the problem.
Yes.
And I think another
It can-
part of the problem is that when the squeaky wheel gets the oil, the kids whose symptoms are most prevalent or most obvious, or the ones that are causing them the most problems, or should I say, causing the administration the most problem, wink, wink, those are the ones that get triaged faster and get services faster. Folks like Jack, who are able to carry on a conversation, make eye contact, physically capable of filling the snack machine and pushing a broom, don't present as being as symptomatic or as struggling as much as somebody in a wheelchair or somebody who's nonverbal. So again, assumptions get made.
Until it blows up
And-
in their face.
Right. Right. You know,
But yes.
I don't talk too much about my daughter, but she got kicked out of a preschool because she was so frustrated with life that she started throwing chairs and swiping all the toys off the shelves and everything. And, you know, naturally everybody jumped to it was a behavioral issue,
All
blah,
right.
blah, blah.
She's got A, B,
And so
C, and
she had-
D.
Yeah, but a preschool teacher was like, well, hang on a second. These are all the things that are going on in her life right now. And she's only 3. And she doesn't have the verbal skills or the self-awareness to identify her frustration, her fears, and everything else. So this is how you see it. And I would be throwing chairs too. And I
Right.
said, I was like, thank you. And that's the thing, when you stop for a minute and look at the source, what is the why?
The root
Why?
cause.
It's
Kind of.
do they feel that they have no other recourse? Years ago, I worked in a group home for HMEA, loved working there, had a woman who was one of the last people to be over at, what was it, the one in Northampton, one of those warehouses before they shut it down. You know, before DDS had that huge overhaul, like what, 20, 25 years ago. And there, you know, people were being warehoused and, you know, literally hosed down in a group shower. And, you know,
Was
loved
that
ones would send in
Belchertown?
clothing. And yes, Belchertown.
Belchertown, yes. Okay.
That closed
Belchertown
in
wasn't the only
1992.
one. There was another one in Northampton and
Yeah.
whatever. But she was one of the last people to live in one of those institutions.
Okay.
And then she wound up at HMEA. And she was nonverbal. She had Down syndrome. She had all sorts of mobility issues. So she used a walker, but oftentimes we'd, you know, if we're at the mall or whatever, we'd push her around in a wheelchair. And she learned at Belchertown or wherever it was she was, that if she didn't eat quickly enough, other people were going to eat for her. And if she didn't, you know, sit in the chair that she wanted quickly enough, then somebody was going to steal that chair or her clothes or her toilet paper or whatever.
It sounds like my
So
daughter.
she had some really deep-seated, protective, you know, I gotta keep what's mine and save what's mine. And when I first started there, she was deemed not incompetent. Where she can't control her bowels. What's the word?
It's incontinent. Yeah.
Incontinent. That was the diagnosis. She was in. Okay. All right, fine. And then you start paying attention to when these accidents are happening and you do your ABCs, antecedent behavior consequence, and you start figuring out that certain things happen immediately following an incontinent episode, and certain things are happening immediately beforehand. And again, it's amazing what happens when you pay attention. One of the few things in this woman's world that she could control
Yep,
was her balance.
just like an
She wasn't
infant. Or,
incontinent at all. Quite the
Makes perfect
opposite.
sense.
She learned, say again?
does.
Yeah, she learned how to control one thing. She had no control over where she was living, what sheets she had on her bed, what food she got to eat that afternoon, but she could control that.
Mm.
So she trained us. You know, we started working around her schedule because it was the one thing she had control over. If somebody had thought, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years before I'd gotten there, why is this happening? And asking those questions.
Training 101 is to let the young child, if we're talking, it would pertain to anybody. Let them have control over something else. Let her choose her sheets, let her choose what she has for dinner. And then that goes away. And
Yep.
conceivably. But you
Yeah.
seem to zero right in on those.
And it goes back to, the people that I support. Again, so many things are out of their control. And again, so many things exist in their world that they're aware of that they cannot change.
This is so
the
personal.
label that's
I
put on them.
understand it. It's
Mm.
seeing my daughter's,
Yep.
her progression over the years and her inability to really get above her diagnosis, her traumas, and really put the pieces together. So she clings to those things that just give her, a sense of control. It's so obvious to
Yep.
me. And I'm
Mm.
telling you, they
Well-
want to diagnose, they want to do this, they want to do that. I'm like, that's all she has, So,
And, on the surface, I don't have a problem with somebody giving a diagnosis. I can, for
absolutely, it
an
helps. It's a
amazing
tool,
friend of mine. Yeah, and it can be a tool,
can be a tool.
especially if you're looking for aid through the state, financial aid, health insurance, food stamps.
Right.
Certain diagnoses get you more attention and more help than others. Currently, everybody thinks it's cool to slap autism as a label onto anyone who doesn't fit into this picture perfect model.
Yeah.
Back when my brother Bradley was little, it was ADD and ADHD.
Right.
Everybody that had a
Yeah.
behavioral issue had ADD or ADHD. Let's just throw Ritalin at them and make the problem go away.
Mm.
Yes, this
You
band-aiding.
Yeah. And so in some ways, having a label can be very helpful as long as you're prepared for that mantle of judgment and responsibility that goes along with it. And they don't teach you that,
The judgment.
especially when you're leaving the education system, public education particularly, although I'm not super fond of a lot of private or educational systems either. But once somebody turns 22, okay, bye, see you later, have fun. I'm gonna just
Right.
throw the whole family in the deep end of the pool and see who swims. Oh, you don't know what you're doing? Oh, that's too bad. Here's a baby's life preserver. You can use that one. When I was working over at
Yeah.
When
It's
I
like,
was working at the day program for Seven Hills, that was one of the things I tried to spearhead, was a program for incoming students and their parents. And I wanted it to be a requirement. Before you can send your loved one to this program, yeah, you're going to get a tour and we're going to make everything look beautiful and rainbows and blow the butterflies up your rear end. And you're going to think it's great because there's like a pottery studio and,
right. Oh, I was that
and a
parent.
fiber studio. Yeah, and you're gonna think it's great, and the rose-colored glasses are on, and you're exhausted because you've been dealing with this particular situation since God was a boy. So the minute you walk into this beautifully, sunny enclosure with a gorgeous saltwater fish tank in the middle, and everyone's talking about inclusive and person first language and blah blah blah. Yay. And then your person starts and they come home and you're like, wait, what happened today? Excuse me? Why were you allowed to walk through the hallways by yourself? Why isn't anybody telling you how to get to your next class? Why don't you have the support that you had in the public schools? Because they just turned 22. So Good luck to you. Have fun. So
Yeah.
I thought we should have a required class for parents or whatever. Like, these are the things you need to know before little Johnny starts over at Aspire. Let
Absolutely.
me walk you through what it's going to look like. And honestly, that should be done just for anybody who's leaving, the education system and switching over to DDS supported services.
Oh
'Cause
my
it's two
goodness, yes.
different worlds, and DDS
You think they were
already,
selling you
I'm-
like a vacation future, the way they
Yeah.
describe it.
and
It's
to
awful.
be fair, I have friends who work for DDS. We used
No,
to work
yeah,
together
it's-
at, like, when you start there, I tried for years to get in with DDS and they never would hire me. I don't know why, probably because I don't take well to having a boss, but
Because you're unconventional, which is
Yeah.
what's necessary.
because I'm
Absolutely.
yeah, I am, yeah,
That's-
look it up in the dictionary. There's me. I have friends who work there and I know how fresh faced and starry-eyed they were when they started. And they, you're supposed to be, I don't know, I think they tell you you're going to have 18 to 25 people on your caseload. Don't quote me on that number. And, 2 months into it, my friend's like, I have 40 people on my caseload. And I'm supposed to spend X amount of time with each one of them per month. And, I have to do home visits and this, that, and the other thing. And they were already overworked, and then COVID hit, and now they're being asked to actually spend time working in the group homes because there's not enough staff.
I've seen that with my daughter's
Yeah.
group home staff. Having,
Yeah.
they're farmed out all the time.
Yeah, which contributes further to the problem, because with the high turnover rate, you've got people coming in who may not be necessarily doing it for the right reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Or again, ran a group home for a while.
Wow. So you really
was
have this lived experience. I use that term just like,
running the group home.
yeah.
I distinctly remember having this huge list of relief staff, and I would call them and I'd say, "Hi, it's Leigh Anne from such and such and what, and just wondering if you're able to work any of these shifts this week." And they'd come in, and they were offended that I'm like, "Well, you're going to have to help this one with toileting, and that means, yes, helping them wipe their rear ends, and yes, you have to do the dishes, and yes, you have to." Or you get the opposite, and they were like, absolutely, and they were overly helpful. So it took away from the independence of the people that were living in the household. And, they would go, there he is, say hi, Eli.
Oh my goodness. So cute. So cute.
He's my love slut. Actually, the original Good Citizenship Project people helped me pick Eli out. Did I ever tell you that
Wow.
story?
No.
So that was one of the questions you asked.
Yep.
Was how the Good Citizenship Project started.
Yes. And wow, you
And-
really did like brought it around perfectly.
Yeah.
Good
So
job.
thank you. Sure. Such a pain in my butt. But so the Good Citizenship Project actually started when I was working as the program coordinator for Seven Hills up on Goddard Memorial Drive.
Mhm.
And, there are policies in place that protect people that attend these programs from being punished or, having their behaviors used against them for later times and whatnot. And what that creates is an environment where you can kind of do whatever you want, and there's not a lot anybody can do about it.
Wow.
We can't ask you, you can't be sent home for a couple of days for throwing a chair. You
Right.
can't be, we can't take away certain privileges,
It's okay. You just
nothing.
come right
There
back. Yeah.
are no consequences to that kind of behavior. And I
Yeah.
get it. Absolutely. I'm not arguing whether it's good or bad. I'm shedding a light on the environment that it creates. In that, like I said, if you pull somebody's hair in school, you're out. If you swear at a teacher, you get in-house suspension. You don't do your homework, well, then you fail.
How about at a job?
Right. So, you do any of those things at work, you're fired, right? But that's not the environment that was created, and it's not anybody's fault. It's It's the result of places like Belchertown having existed. And so the pendulum swings the other way, and now everything's overly protective and there are no consequences. So we had a bunch of folks that were there that were just right there in that turning 22. I mean, they were just babies. They're 22 in a day. Smart kids, capable kids, wonderful kids. I shouldn't call them kids, adults, people.
I do that.
And they had so much potential and so little self-awareness, so little knowledge of emotion regulation, distress tolerance, mindfulness, interpersonal effectiveness. None of those skills existed because that's not the focus in the public school system. None of that is.
No.
So we have all these folks who are completely capable of sweeping floors and changing out the trash and da 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 da. And again, the sheltered, what were they called?
So sheltered workshops or something like that.
Yes, sheltered workshops all got closed down because that was also being abused and taken advantage of. And people were doing 6 hours of work and getting paid 15 cents on the hour because it's based on your capabilities and how much you can get done. So all those sheltered workshops are shut down. And again, pendulum swings the other way, and it's super extreme. And now you can't take anybody anywhere to do volunteer work because then that's considered slave labor. So here we are with a building that needs to get cleaned and people who are capable of doing it, and they need meaning and purpose. They need to be able to go home and say, I did this. I look at my job well done. And they're doing, like you said earlier, Carla, they're being given worksheets and coloring sheets. And, you know, they're taking classes on distress tolerance, but no one's actually showing them how to use it. And
Like
they're
real
bored,
time.
and they're acting out
Bored.
and they've got no meaning and purpose. So I was like, fine, let me find some nonprofits that we can go, where we can go volunteer, because you can volunteer at a nonprofit as an autonomous adult, right? But if we were to go someplace where it was a for-profit agency, like where did I try and take them to volunteer? Cornerstone Ranch in Princeton, where she gives.
Oh, yes. Yep. I know that place.
I wanted to take them there to do barn work and stuff. And the higher ups at Seven Hills were like, pump the brakes, because that's a for-profit place. And if you're taking them there to do work, then they need to get paid for it.
Oh, wow. So real kind of limiting.
So yeah. So it and of course, there's not a lot of places that if you call them up and say, hey, I'm from Seven Hills, can we come volunteer? The first thing they're thinking of is, oh, great, all these special need people and the job's not going to get done right.
And their liability.
I mean, right. It is. Let's be honest, it is. So I reached out to Worcester Animal Rescue League and a couple other places, the Ecotarium, and explained, I've got all these able-bodied adults and they need work to do. They need heavy lifting. They need to break a sweat. They need to work hard and feel like what that feels like.
Yeah.
To have that accomplishment. And so I had that set up, one of the libraries we went to and everything, got it all set up. But on the other end of that, and this is where the actual Good Citizenship Project came in, you couldn't join and go out with me in the community as on a volunteer basis unless you had good attendance, you had been free from any aggressive incidents for X amount of time, you were able to show that you could control your language and interact with the people in the building appropriately and stuff. And it was delicate. And I still had to be very careful how I worded it. But yeah, if you couldn't meet that criteria that week, you didn't get to come to the Good Citizenship Project. And when I pitched it to Phil Philbin, he was not super thrilled because he was afraid that it would be considered, being punished.
Right.
And I said, okay, well, then that's part of the curriculum, is learning how to be socially appropriate and learning how to accept constructive criticism and feedback and learning how to accept consequences to your behaviors and your actions. So I finally sold him on it. And my boss at the time, Sonia, was the program manager, and she was like, yes, absolutely, let's do this. Because she saw what I was trying to do. And she was really great in helping me word it in a way like Carla's doing with my business proposal. Because I can talk about it all day, but then finding the right language to use so that people hear me and actually take me seriously.
Oh, I'm glad you're doing that.
Whole different ball of wax.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they'll take you seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sonia was there to do that. And there was another girl I worked with. Her name was Tanya, and another girl named Amy. And I used to jokingly say that they would translate into Leigh Anne IS what people were saying. And because, you know, like people with autism often do, I took everything personally and as a personal affront. And they were like, no, no, no. What they're saying is, this is great. Fix that, blah, blah, blah. So the Good Citizenship was born. And we actually did a thing where each class broke up in, they broke up into pods, if you want to call them. And they either made up their own recipe or researched a chili recipe. And then we invited firefighters from Paxton, Rutland, Worcester, the
So
police.
cool.
Yeah. And so they had a chili cook-off. And what's the premise there? Well, we're saying thank you to the firefighters for the hard work that they do, building community relations. And all these guys got a cooking lesson out of it. And they got to take part in that and be part of something bigger instead of just doing the program every day. And okay, this is how you're going to make grilled cheese and push the buttons on the microwave. Woo.
Which actually is like you explained to me, it's very prompt dependent, because I know my son spent years learning how to cook. I mean, he should be able to walk into the kitchen and cook. But no, I've had to like go over it step by step and write it down, visuals, and because he hadn't done it real time.
Right.
Prompt dependent.
So these guys did it. They did it real time, and they all got the experience of that constructive feedback.
Yeah.
Firefighters didn't. Obviously, there was one winner, so the other people who did not win had to accept that and learn how to deal with that kind of disappointment. And we also did Friendsgiving. So everyone was asked to bring in a donation of food, either a can of corn or some flour or cookies from the bakery at Shaw's, whatever. And you were allowed to invite one person of your choosing. And we did a giant buffet family style Friendsgiving, like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Wow.
And I mean, hundreds of people came. You walk through the line, and we cooked everything ourselves. I took home turkeys and I cooked the turkeys, but they made the stuffing and the mashed potatoes and the corn and the green beans and and they were excited about it. It wasn't a hardship. They were thrilled to be able to have the people that they care about come in, see their day program, taste the food that they've cooked, see their friends. It was this giant undertaking. It was, and a friend of mine DJ'd karaoke after for them all. Thank you, Matt R. If you ever hear this podcast. So he came in and he did that, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. But that was the Good Citizenship. That was the whole thing. Like, you do nice things for other people without the expectation of anything in return. And that's how you're a good citizen. So whether it's going to somebody's house and walking their dog for them, there was a person in town who had surgery and then his wife got sick. And so we brought over a meal, literally all they did was walk out and hand it to the guy. But it's still the idea of you do nice things for other people.
I love it.
And that's with no expectations.
Absolutely.
That's the meaning and purpose, because you feel good when you do good things.
It's kind of like but we've forgotten that in our, everything's disconnected. We forgot to connect the dots. So I see, what you're doing is really connecting a lot of the dots in these systems that are really, like you said, I mean, they were the intentions there. A lot of the people in them are fantastic, but it's not like tying things together for these amazing humans that need to go forward in life. So,
It's very disjointed. And, you know, like you had said before, I think Carla, you mentioned it about how those extra 4 years at the high school are wasted. You know, I'm hoping that participating in the Good Citizenship Project and being a member of it helps to sort of balance that out and teach, you know, yeah, it's great that you know how to put the whatever mac and cheese in the microwave. That's great. Why don't you try going over to somebody else's house doing it for them?
right.
You know, you
Yeah.
hear about elderly people who are stuck in their homes, you know, when it snowed the other day. Why, I know you know how to shovel. Go over and shovel your neighbor's driveway. Don't ask for anything back, because eventually it'll come back to you somehow, in some way.
Mm,
You know, and then you can go to school on Monday. Oh, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I played Minecraft and watched three and a half men. And oh, well, I shoveled for my neighbors and they brought me some cookies the next day.
all right.
Okay. And that's why I think that her business should be so much bigger. I told
my
her when I met
gosh.
her that she needs to be in charge and instruct these other
Yes.
people on just what she knows. There need to be
Yes.
like 12 of her.
You're
The
back in
better.
business.
Okay. Well, so to speak, yeah.
So yeah, so Good Citizenship Project that's how it started. And how has it gone, and what's your vision, kind of thing, like, and how do people get involved or
So
find out more?
it's easy to get involved. All you got to do is look it up on Facebook. It's just Good Citizenship Project. It's not, there's no the, because again, technologically challenged.
I
And
think start simple.
accidentally made two Facebook. Yeah, well, I made two Facebook pages accidentally, and then I had to join them and whatever. So it's just Good Citizenship Project on Facebook. That's it. There is no website. Sorry. Again, not that technologically advanced. Someday when I actually have a laptop, maybe I'll do it. Right now, this thing that I'm using is all I have. So
That's the next
um,
goal. The
next goal.
laptop.
So people can just go to the Facebook page and my phone number is on there, or they can call 508-868-0293. That's me. I try and call people back as soon as I can. I think I'm pretty good about responding to the messages on there. And there's really no requirements. You don't have to know about animals. You don't have to know how to perform the chores. You have to be physically capable of doing them at some point, and you have to be willing to do it. And that includes during inclement weather. I get a lot of parents who call, or caregivers, and they say, oh, well, so-and-so, you know, I'm a little concerned if it's cold out. Well, the animals don't care. So
deal.
particularly when there's inclement weather is when it's most important for us to go. And I don't think people necessarily realize that I have a relationship with these barns, and therefore when I say we're going to be there at Tuesday at 9, they plan accordingly. They make other arrangements, and they plan on maybe doing other chores that they didn't have time to do, but now they will because we're going. And then if I say, oh, well, you know, Jack doesn't want to come because it's cold, now they're in a lurch. You know, not that Jack's ever done that.
No.
Jack's the last
No.
person to do it. He'll
No,
throw
won't.
on like a spacesuit if he needs to go.
Yeah.
But I have had parents call with those concerns. Well, you know, what if it's 20 degrees out? Then put on extra layers.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm all like, shut them
Like,
outdoors with the hose, you know? So yeah, I'm all about the
yeah,
having a little hardship.
my mom was like that. If TV was like something you did
Right. At
after
night.
everything else,
Yeah.
and you need to be outside. And
Oh, yeah.
again, that's kind of my thing. So even with the dogs, like I just buy them coats, heavy coats, and they go out when it's cold, and I adjust it. And if there's a snow day for the schools, then probably I'm not going anywhere anyway, because I'm not going to put your loved one in the car and drive around on unsafe road conditions. But that's not having anything to do with the actual weather. It's having to do with being safe.
Right.
So, I mean, the Good Citizenship Project's not for the faint of heart. It's not for anyone who is going to give up after 5 minutes of hard work. It's
That's a
for
good
people
point.
who, it's not for everyone. And I'm not for everyone because I'm kind and compassionate, but I'm also a hard nut to crack. And if I decide that I believe you're capable of doing this, then I will encourage you to do so.
I love
Ask
that.
Jack.
I know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a good
you're like
attitude.
I want to say like the horse whisperer or something, the Jack whisperer, getting him to just able to get a lot out of him that now I can. I'll tell you that I was saying that to Carla while you were gone. Like now he's taking responsibility. He's home. He's doing, he's getting the mail. He's going, getting stuff for me at the pharmacy. He's shoveling. He's,
Wow.
yeah.
Mm.
It's like something clicked in him. So
Good. That's good.
yeah, it's
He
good.
Yeah.
he
It's
doesn't
amazing
doesn't
what
need
validation does for people. It's
Ah,
yeah.
amazing how much they can really do once
You remember
they
that
know I'm capable.
right. They get so
you
few
guys
wins.
both saw the movie Better Off Dead, right? With John Cusack. The ski movie, I Want My $2.
Vaguely.
Yes. Yeah, vaguely.
Carla, you remember there was the little pretty French exchange student, and
God, it's coming
and
back.
John Cusack had like a terrible sense of self-esteem, and he was always like, "Oh no, I can't do this," and whatever, and he was terribly self-doubtful. And so the French girl was, like, "Oh yes, you just need a taste of success, and then you will see that you want more." And I think that's
Mm.
true. I mean, I can't say it as cute as she did because she had that little
Well, you're
fake
not
French
French,
accent.
so
I'm not an actress, but you guys should both watch the movie because it's hilarious. But
I know I'm gonna have to.
I
I
think
don't.
it's I would watch
probably
that,
saw it in the 80s.
Yeah.
and you bring it out again because a different perspective on life in general, and it's actually very dark because it's making fun of how many times he tries to kill himself.
Mm.
Oh,
But
okay.
he gets dumped by this girl Beth, and typical of all teenagers in high school, like, oh, it's the end of my life. I'm gonna die. But he takes it to that next level where he's like trying to jump off a bridge and all this. And I won't ruin it for you, and
Okay.
because you can't talk about it, like you can't talk about it in today's day and age without sounding
No,
really
I know.
insensitive. And how was that acceptable? And how did our parents let us
Right.
watch that? And
Yeah.
yeah, point is that in that movie, she says, you just need a taste of success and you will
Yeah.
find that you like it.
Yep.
And Carla, you had touched on that, and just having that positive reinforcement in that. I mean, when you do something good for someone, your brain releases serotonin
Yep.
and
Mhm.
norepinephrine and all those feel good hormones that start coursing through your body. So it's a scientific fact that you feel better when you do nice things for people. DBT will teach you that as a coping mechanism when you're feeling particularly angry or withdrawn and you don't want to deal with people. Do the opposite of that and actually go deal with people and do something nice for someone.
Mhm.
And all
Right.
that natural reinforcement that you get from simply smiling at someone and saying, "Hey, I like that necklace. It does amazing stuff." And it bleeds over into like working with Johnny because they get that instant reward, the sensory wise, of touching him and smelling his detangler and hearing him
Mhm.
crunch. But then also next time they come back, he recognizes them. He walks right over to them and he's looking for treats and he's looking for attention from them. And even if they, some of them still have to find input other ways. So they might start flapping their hands or jumping or staring off into space or whatever. And he's just like, okay, all right, I'll be over here, just finding some hay. Do you think? He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Right. There's no
You know,
judgment whatsoever.
there's no
You're you,
judgment.
I'm me. Let's just be here together.
And if you need a
Nice.
minute, cool. I'll be over here finding some grass. Let me know when you're ready. And he's big. And so there's that there's that empowering feeling of I just got a 1-ton animal to follow me through this obstacle course and let me put hula hoops on his head. And, in school, I can't get people to sit still and talk to me for 15 minutes because I'm weird. But I can go to the barn and I can do or say whatever I want to Johnny and he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And it's the same when we go to over to Jesse's farm and we see the emu, who is a really prehistoric, strange looking
We
animal.
drove
He
up
looks
there.
like
Jack knew the way. We drove up there.
Oh, that's awesome.
the emu's name is Jersey. We've recently discovered through some key behaviors that it's a boy, not a girl. But he looks like a Muppet. He looks like something that Jim Henson would have created. You know, he's goofy looking and has these weird sudden movements and absolutely no filter, no boundaries, you know. And if you're a person on the spectrum, you're kind of particular about your boundaries and your personal space. And Jersey is like, so tough. I'm gonna nibble on your jacket and try and eat your earrings or pull your hair. Tough, deal with it. So there's those moments where things happen that they don't like, but it's not happening. A person's not doing it. So there's none of that initial offense or fear. Because, you know, let's face it, by the time you've been in the school, by the time you're 16, people have been mean to you, no matter if you're neurotypical or not.
Yeah, that's for sure.
There's bullies and there's life. Life happens and we get disappointed and we experience trauma, whether it was accidental or not. So by the time you're in high school, if somebody moves quickly towards you, you back up and you're fearful. But animals can do it and it's like, oh, hey, what's going on? That's cool. Oh, look, he's eating my buttons. And it's
So
safe.
like desensitization or kind of.
Yeah. And you get to say, I got to pet an emu today.
Right.
Who
Bonus.
gets to go to school and say that?
Not many. I mean, yeah, I showed that slideshow to his team and they, they had no words for that. That kind of.
No, because a lot of people still have pigeonholed Jack as being someone who's aggressive and uncontrollable, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Sure,
I
fine.
know.
I was too, 12 years old, chasing around my mom's cat with a broomstick because I had no idea how to channel and express my fears and frustrations and anger. And so I took it out on the closest thing that wasn't going to fight back.
Yeah.
And I was 12. I had no idea what was going on in my brain with my hormones and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I'd never think about ever doing that now, but I was so flooded with life
good word.
and hormones and lack of coping skills. You make a mistake when you're 12 or 16 or 9 or 21, and 10 years later, it's still following you around.
Yeah.
And that's just entirely not fair. It's good to have that information, but I'll tell you, when I was the case manager over at Seven Hills, somebody new would be coming in, especially from like the schools. And, my supervisor was like, here's the file, read up on it so you know. And I'd wait until after I met them.
Did you?
I don't want that.
Oh, no judgment. That's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
No preconceived.
Notion.
Right.
Because whether you want it to or not, it makes a difference. You form judgment. You walk into that room.
It's what we do. It's how we navigate.
Well, that's how we survived, saber-toothed tigers,
right,
was by looking around and making a snap judgment about, oh, that thing has big teeth and fur, I better get up a tree.
Right.
That's how we survive. It's necessary to make snap judgment. You therefore afterwards have to be willing to reassess after you survive the initial threat. You're up in the tree and the cat walks by and I just wanted that antelope over there. It didn't actually want me. Cool, fine. I'm gonna climb back down the tree and go the other way now. Done. It's part of survival. It's necessary, but
it's a little hyper developed in our because we're not using it in the right way. But anyways.
And especially if you have a diagnosis and require an IEP, you've been taught to judge first and think later, because I shouldn't say everyone. Oftentimes you're poorly treated based on your diagnosis. So.
Oh yeah, just so true. So what's your vision?
Oh, I just want the people that I support, I want the members of the GCP to walk away from the experience with me having a sense of meaning and purpose, knowing that they're worthy and capable, and knowing how to speak up for themselves in an appropriate way. I don't come across people that don't know how to stick up for themselves very often. I come across people who do it in a way that gets them in trouble.
Wow, good, well worded.
You know,
Mhm.
so my
That's-
thing is, I can use Jack as an example because you're his mom, so I can talk openly about him with you. You know, sometimes he gets frustrated or he's unsure if he, you know, like with the
Sure,
log
he wants to
splitter,
please.
he wants to please. He's afraid of failure. He's afraid of criticism. And so often he'll be doing something that, by my assessment, he should know how to do this by now and really doesn't need anything from me. I'm literally just there to make sure that like a piece of wood doesn't go flying and hit somebody in the face. And he's doing it beautifully, probably better than he gives himself credit for. And he'll often look up at me like, is this right or should I do this? And I just go,
Yeah, that
Mhm.
internal.
I absolutely will not give him that I don't want to say support, but he's looking for reassurance, and that's an inappropriate time to do it. If you're working with a log splitter, excuse my language, but you damn well better know what you're doing by now. And if you don't, and you need to look at me as to whether or not you should be doing it, then you probably shouldn't be doing the log splitter anymore.
Before your finger
So-
goes through.
Right. And the thing is he doesn't need that. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's really, really good at it, better than most neurotypical people, because he's got that attention for detail.
Yes, he does.
And if you tell him something's supposed to be 2 feet long and 4 inches wide, then he will make sure it is 2 feet long and 4 inches wide every single time, because that's what you told him he's supposed to do. So he's going to go with it, you know, which is a strength most times. It can also be
Oh,
a
yeah.
hindrance depending on the situation. But I can throw that right back at him and have that conversation in the car, and he doesn't like it. And I don't care because I'm mean. And also, if you need to ask me whether or not that you did a good job on this, then you don't need to be doing this anymore. And he gets huffy. And then I'll say, hey, I'm being straight with you. Because if you want to get a job as a firefighter, you damn well better be able to make these kinds of decisions on your own, or you'll die. Right? I mean,
Yeah,
let's be
just
literal.
getting a little teary
Firefighting is
because
not
I see him being able to start to handle criticism, handle
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah.
So that have been, you know, I have the same philosophy. Yeah, really, just like I'm not going to baby you. I think he gets babied a lot in school and whatnot, but I'm not going to baby you. But you know, I haven't always been that way. So you know,
So I guess one of the unintended goals, or I didn't really think about it until now, but it seems to be a consequence of the Good Citizenship Project, is that I'm squelching this learned helplessness that people come to me with. You know, I'm not a parent of a child with special needs, so I can only talk about what I observe when someone comes to me and I'm providing services for
Mhm.
them. But what I do often notice is that parents are tired. Oftentimes, this person that's coming to me as a member of the Good Citizenship Project is not an only child. They have siblings. And so there's a dynamic there where often the parent or the legal guardian or whatever, the caregiver, is tired. So they go to default and
stressed,
they say,
depressed.
I'm just going to tie your shoes for you right now because
Oh, yeah.
we need to get out the door because your brother's got soccer and your sister's got ballet and I'm hungry and your father's going to be home soon. So yeah, I'm just tying your shoes for you right now.
Mm.
Oh yeah, I was
And
guilty.
then the person, you know,
Oh yeah,
and
me too. Mhm.
there's nothing to be guilty about,
Oh yeah,
except for now.
they have to catch
In
up.
my case, I now have a 27-year-old individual who doesn't know how to tie his shoes. Nobody's fault. I have time to show that. I'm that's what you're paying me to do.
Yes.
So I can tell them, I can teach them how to tie their shoes. And I will, because you can't have untied shoes around a farm. if you trip and fall and smash your face on a pitchfork, well, you shoot your eye out, kid. You know, like you can't.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The best thing about working on a farm is there's no room for screw up, really. There is, but there isn't. Where safety is concerned, I don't screw around. I'm very strict.
Mhm.
And that's a criteria. I said there aren't a lot of requirements. I need to know that you can keep yourself safe. And if I say, no, don't do that, you're going to listen to me the first time. If that's a concern and you're not lucky enough to have like a one-to-one that can come with you, then you at
It
this
won't
time
work.
would not be eligible
Got it.
to be a member of the Good Citizenship Project, because you need to be able to keep yourself safe. We're around, if you guys saw the picture of Jesse's Scottish Highland bull,
Mm,
the
yes, beautiful animal.
of those horns is what, 4 feet, 5 feet?
Yep. Mm.
And even if you're standing outside of the fence, if he swings his head over because a butterfly went by and he wants to see what that is over there, and you can't move fast enough, you're getting gored by a bull.
Yeah, it's not
So
pretty.
there's a level of self-responsibility that is required, and some people aren't given the credit for having it. But with if you just stick with me, kid, in a little, you're gonna have it real quick.
Yeah.
That's not an area I can take any risks, and I won't. If I feel like you're capable of learning that with me, then I'll teach you. And I think that's where, you get rid of that learned helplessness, because I'll show you how to tie your shoes once, twice, maybe 3 times, and then after that I'm gonna be like, no, hold on, let me stop what I'm doing. I'll sit here and I'll wait for you, but you're doing this by yourself now. Let's get this done, because you're 20 whatever years old and you should be able to do this by now. One thing that people seem to miss when you're offering adaptive whatever is that the end goal should still be that a person who's neurodiverse should be able to blend in to the neurotypical population as much as possible. We want to celebrate everybody's diversity. I don't care if you're neurodiverse or whatever. Everybody should be celebrated for their differences. If I can't give you the tools to blend in more, then life's going to be that much harder for you.
Mm.
When you go to get a job, or you're at the beach and there's all those guys over there playing volleyball and you want to play too. If I can't give you the skills on how to make that happen, then I'm failing. So that's really the end goal, is autonomy, meaning and purpose, self-confidence, and the confidence in yourself to ask for help when you need it.
It's just what's needed.
Self-advocacy.
Yeah, self-advocacy.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel
Yes,
like
that's the word,
yeah,
Carla, self-advocacy. Yes.
It's key.
And that they throw that on IEP goals all the time.
I know.
Self-advocacy.
Like, do they even know what that means?
But they don't follow through.
Yeah,
Right.
they don't.
Thank you. Follow through would be key here, since some people still can't go to a restaurant and choose from the menu because they're so used to going out on outings with the group at school,
Right.
or a day program, and the staff person will say, do you want a hamburger or chicken nuggets? There's about 17 other things on the menu that someone can choose from, but the staff member knows that chicken fingers or burger are this person's favorite. So they say, do you want this or
Oh,
that?
that's a good point.
Yes. And I noticed that you take the people who work with you out a lot to lunch. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put a picture on Jack's favorite lunch or whatever.
Oh, and
Yeah.
Chris is most of the time.
That's a really key, important thing to do. It's a life skill.
And everybody, everybody
like,
knows Chris by now, right? From Chris's collections.
Mhm.
And
Oh, yeah.
I've known him since he was knee high to a grasshopper. He was, running underneath the bellies of the horses at the barn when I met him and his mom. So I've known the family a long time. And God bless him, because by the time he and I are done together, he's probably ready to kill me. Especially when we go out to lunch, because I rarely will say to him, do you want chicken fingers or do you want a burger? Usually I'll say, oh, well, let's see. Oh, look, they have fried tomatoes and grilled cheese. So let's try one of those. Which one do you want? So I'm still limiting the choices but I'm presenting new ones.
New ones.
And it's not a, don't ever say, offer a yes or no question, because you're going to get no. So I won't say, do you want grilled cheese? I'll say, do you want grilled cheese or do you want jalapeno peppers?
Mhm.
You know, and even with Jack, when we went to Antonio's, give them a shout out because they're awesome. You should go. And the staff there is amazing. You know, he's flipping through the menu and I could see the stress,
The anxiety.
you know what I
yeah.
mean? He starts to clench his jaw and I could see these muscles here and he's getting tense because there's a lot to choose from. And I said, well, what are you in the mood for? Like, do you want a burger? I know you said you were talking about a burger because it's a treat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can have a burger if you want, but that's not the only thing on the menu. I think you like pasta, right? So we just had a conversation about likes and dislikes, taking the pressure off of the need to make a choice, because it's going to happen eventually. We're in a restaurant, you're going to choose. But we just made it a conversation. And then through that conversation, learned that he really did want a burger because he doesn't get them that often. So I was like, have a burger, man. You know, you worked
Yeah.
hard today. You did a lot of heavy lifting. You burned off some calories. Have a burger. Enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
You
Yeah.
know?